Fantasy Island. Joining us now from Washington, we have Republican representative from Oklahoma, Congressman Tom Cole. Congressman, thank you very much for coming back on the show this morning.
Thank you, Mika.
We also have Ed Rendell still with us, Dan Senor still with us, Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, Sam Stein in Washington, as well as Michael Steele in Washington. So we got a great panel to talk to you, Congressman, this morning. You were the guy who was willing to cut a deal, I think, at that 250 limit. I don't know how ostracized you got by your party for that.
Actually, I'm very popular now.
Are you? You're popular, really?
You know,
why are we still sitting here?
Well, honestly, I've never changed my mind. I think if we'd have dealt with the revenue question early, which is not the answer to the problem, but it's a step toward it, then we could have moved to where the real issues are, and that's spending restraint and entitlement reform. And that's what we should have been talking about the last 4 weeks. Having said that, that's what we're going to be talking about the next 2 months. We'll finish this revenue piece, I think, in the next few days, hopefully before the 3rd, before this Congress ends. And then we're going to move on to dealing with spending and entitlements, because that's the only way you can actually solve the fiscal challenge.
But you know, I don't believe you. I mean, we're going to move on and deal with spending. I really, after 2 years...
Well, there's 3 big triggering mechanisms in front of us, Mika, that I think force us there. The first one is sequester itself, which most people don't want to do, at least at some level. The second one is the continuing resolution, which runs out at the end of March. That's spending authority and everything. And finally, there's the debt ceiling. So those 3 things push you back towards spending and entitlement reform.
Yeah, but this was supposed to push us back. This was supposed to be this doomsday deadline that would force you guys to deal with the nation's debt.
You know Washington well enough to know that deadlines around here are alarm clocks. That's just the way it's worked for 200-plus years. I do think we'll take care of the revenue issue in relatively short order, but it's really not the problem. There's not enough revenue here to do much. It's, it's 8 or 10 days of government spending. And what we really got to do, you just can't budget. If the president gets all the revenue he asked for, he simply can't deal with the problem without putting forward real spending cuts, real entitlements.
I don't think the president is going to get all the revenue he's asked for, but I'll tell you this, I know this is sort of how Washington works. You know how Washington works. Things get put off, except we've been downgraded. We've just been through a terrible recession, and we're on the cliff of another one. If we push this was supposed to happen now.
Well, it should have happened. Look, the House acted on this in May, and they've had legislation sitting in the Senate. All the Senate had to do, didn't have to pass what the House passed, just needed to pick the bill up, do what Senator Coburn suggested earlier, have an open process, amend it, and send it back. Now, again, we don't control the Senate. That's Harry Reid. But if you wait to the last minute, then you're going to have situations like we have now. It didn't have to be this way. We acted months ago. I'm sorry the Senate didn't choose to do so, and I'm sorry the administration didn't ask them to do so.
I got to get Sam Stein in here. Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, Congressman, I just have a question about sort of the long-term strategy for the congressional Republicans. Because obviously in 2011 there was a chance, there was a deal possibly out there that included not just change CPI, but also the raising of the Medicare eligibility age. Now, looking back at that, and of course looking back at 2 weeks ago where change CPI was again on the table, do you think there were missed opportunities there by leadership in the congressional Republican
I don't know
Party?
if there were missed opportunities, but again, I'm a big believer in solving problems one step at a time. And I think one thing we have learned is this elusive grand bargain isn't likely to happen between this administration and this Congress. It can't seem to think that big and do that big a thing at once. I'm sorry. I wish it could. So when we have an opportunity to actually nail down the tax rates or get the kind of reforms you're talking for, I personally think you ought to take them. Now, they're not going to pass on the floor, with a partisan majority. They'd have to have bipartisan support, but that's what an agreement is all about. Once you have an agreement, you're going to get votes from both sides. You can make things happen.
Okay, do you think you guys ought to just stay there until you have something big?
Yeah, actually, look, we're here now. This isn't where I plan to spend New Year's Eve or anybody else. So it's not that people aren't prepared to work, but I go back to Senator Coburn's point, which I think was excellent, and the big lesson. Let's go back to regular order. We've passed things in the House. Just please pick them up in the Senate, deal with them, send them back, and we'll work through the process. These big negotiations behind the scenes haven't worked. They frustrate Americans, and honestly, they don't seem to produce a product that gets done in the end.
Congressman Tom Cole, thank you very much. Hope to see you soon again on the show.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Politico's Mike Allen. Also